Welcome back to another episode of Aegis Mic Check, a podcast where we talk about things that relate to personal finance. Hi everyone, I'm your host Christine, and today I'm joined by Amelia and Jakes from Aegis Organisation. Aegis Organisation is an authorised representative of AIA Singapore Private Limited. Hello, good morning. Welcome to our podcast today. Today we're going to talk about investing in our children. Investing in our children. So that includes a lot of aspects. It can be time, it can be money, it can be a lot of things. But today we're going to just focus on money. Investing our resources and our money in our children.
Morning, Christine. Morning, Jake.
Morning.
Hey, welcome to our podcast. Thank you for joining us today. So let's start. How long have you guys been married?
I'm not
11
married
years.
to Jake, huh?
Okay, to clarify, they are separate
We're
parents
married.
to different child, okay?
Yeah, separate.
Right, okay.
8 years.
8 years. Okay, 8 years for Amelia. What about Jake?
So for 11 years already.
11 years. Okay, so how many kids do you have?
I have two, one at 11, one at 7.
2 little princesses, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Amelia?
I have one. He's turning 6 in December.
Wow, milestone. Recently, right, there are a lot of attention or rather discussion in the media about retirement planning. We talk about how much we save for our retirement planning. Do we ever plan for retirement? And once we have kids, right, wow, our money goes to our kids. So how much, I'm just curious, how much do you spend on your children? Okay, let's put it in the term of percentage of your paycheck like every month.
I think for me, right, I don't really go according to percentage. I just don't overspend. I know like how much I have, and then I don't over budget, I don't overspend. So I don't really go on a percentage because for us self-employed, our own is quite variable.
Okay.
So yeah, we just have a fixed amount.
Mhm.
We know what is best for the kid. Don't overload him with stuff. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I cannot go according to percentage. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Okay, no worries. We'll dig further on that fixed amount later. So what about Jake?
Yeah, so I also saw the news recently that a lot of people are holding back having kids because being concerned about affecting retirement. Similarly to Amelia, I don't really cater a percentage. In fact, I don't even have a fixed amount. So what I do is I make sure that the needed are there for them. So I think it's not feasible to really allocate an amount aside.
Okay, let's dig further. Okay, so Amelia, you mentioned about a fixed amount. So what is included in the fixed amount?
School fees and enrichment, and then I order like some form of subscriptions for my boy. So every month there is like this STEAM crate, like what the science, technology, engineering and all that. It's like a surprise box for him to do some activities every month. Yeah, so these are like my fixed expenses.
Okay, and you see this as necessities?
Yeah, good to have. I scale back on too much enrichments because he's in childcare until like 5 p.m. every day. So I don't want to load him with more enrichment on the weekend. So we just keep to like maybe one extra enrichment class, that's all.
Okay.
So there's more time at home to play and rest.
Okay, so your fixed amount largely makes up of school fees, some enrichment classes, not so much, but just enough, and some subscription to keep him occupied.
Yeah.
Okay, is that the same for Jake?
Yeah, similar. So basically fixed amount, definitely one will be education, childcare fees, school fees, books, and all these. And definitely food. My girls, although 11, she's still drinking milk powder. Yeah. So all these are fixed and essential one that needed to be spent. So they don't really have any enrichment or side activity. So clothing, toys wise is all really based on need based. I try to teach or do what is within my means before sending them to external classes. So like swimming, cycling, or even tuition. Basically, I do it all on my own.
Wow, you are tuition, cycling, and swimming teacher all in one.
Yeah, within my means one, I will try to do it until if let's say I have no time or I can't teach, then yes, then maybe I'll start considering. Because I remember very clearly there was once my girl told me that Monday to Friday I'm in school already. Then after school I come back and do assessment and do homework. Then Saturday I'll do some assessment. So I'm only left with Sunday. Then if you still send me to classes, I will not have any time anymore. So actually struck me quite deeply. So I start to plan. I mean, if let's say need to have classes, then I do it on my own. At least it's time together or what.
Wow, that's a very good point. just talk a bit about myself. So now, right, my kid is only 3 years old. I'm starting to consider sending her for swimming schools. Swimming schools, right, there are a lot of different types of swimming schools. Some, they call it the elite school. Some the mass market school. So when you all consider, right, what to spend, let's say, for example, necessities, school, enrichment, activities, do you actually put a standard M on the things that you spend? Like, what is your thought on this?
For us, right, the choice of school, we didn't have much of a choice because all the nearby schools were already full. Because our kid is a December baby, right? So basically all the January to November one already placed wait list and it was SG50. So by the time we wanted to put our boy into a play group, it was mostly full. So we had to travel quite a distance. And then the fees are a little more pricey than the average ones. But we decided to go with it because there was enrichment embedded inside the curriculum. And then a nutritionist in the school, and then they have all the things that we wanted in a preschool, especially the student-teacher ratio. It's a foundation year, so we are okay to put that money aside for the foundation. For us, it didn't come by choice. I mean, if there was one downstairs, then we would probably consider, but there was like zero vacancy.
So what drove you to that was basically there's nothing near you which is available. Yeah. What about enrichment classes then? That one you should have a bit more options. So would you go for more quality ones, which equates to more expensive?
For me, my main consideration, right, is the location, the convenience, because I don't want to travel 1 hour or 45 minutes just to get to the enrichment class, which is like maybe 1 hour. So my criteria is location, and then whether or not it's kids friendly, whether or not I like the style of learning, and then school fees, or if it's reasonable, then we will consider.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be branded.
Just for my education, on average, how much is one enrichment class?
I think I don't know that my only enrichment class that I send my kid for, right, is half an hour music lessons, and it's like 160 a month, 4 lessons.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that was quite okay, reasonable to expose him to music. Yeah.
What about Jakes? Do you pay yourself $160 to teach daughter swimming and tuition and so many things?
No, literally, I'm really like the all-rounder. But I learned quite a number of lessons or even thoughts from my elder girl. So like what Amelia mentioned, I sent my elder girl to a relatively good preschool, those Montessori, which is also quite costly. So of course, first child, I mean, you're not so sure. So everything just wanted to go for the best, and then assuming that is good and it will deliver the best result in some ways. I think subconsciously we will still be affected or swayed by the brand when we are making a choice for the kid, especially the first one. The first one I did send to quite a number of enrichment within the childcare itself. But to answer the question, I don't really go for the brand anymore. So I think really depends on individual child as well. But I won't go for the brand. So as long as it's within my means, environment is good and helpful and they have interest, then yes, I will pay for it.
So your second child goes to the same school as your eldest?
My second one goes to those normal government school, My World. I don't know whether have you heard of it. My elder one go to those Montessori. My younger one is those under the block, that kind one. Yeah, my elder one is at CBD area one.
Through our conversation just now, right, we have touched a bit about, what motivates you to spend on your kids and how do you actually decide how much to spend and what to spend on. Can you share a bit more about what drives the spending on your kid? Is it because you want to see their smiley face? For example, $100 versus $200 of enrichment. If you choose $200, why is it? What drives that decision?
For me, right, I guess it would be the content, the value that I feel that it can bring to my kid in terms of developing some skill that will be useful for him in future. Yeah,
$100 and $200 both gives you the same outcome. It will help your child develop skills. It will also occupy your child's time, give him a little bit more knowledge. But of course, the brand is a little bit different. Like we say, quality of service a little bit different. Would you choose 100 or 200? What drives that?
Is the student-teacher ratio the same?
So service is very important to you. You want to make sure that your child is well taken care of.
Yeah, I think that's a priority for me.
All right. Okay. What about Jakes?
I'm actually a logical person. So end of the day, my decision factor is always based on whether is it needed or not needed. My girl's milk powder, my in-laws and all were telling me they can actually stop their milk powder or change to fresh milk, that kind of stuff, because a tin costs about $80+, that kind. because then my elder one's still 11 years old already. But for me, I still can afford and it's helpful to her. So I will still continue to spend it. Unless maybe I don't have the means to spend it, then I'll start to consider alternative, like maybe change to fresh milk that are cheaper. So it really boils down to whether need or needed and whether I can afford or cannot afford.
Okay, so let's dig deeper on the need or not needed. So for Amelia is whether my child benefits from it or not. When you make this decision, right, do you actually discuss with your children? Do you really want this?
I think for me, we do try to talk to our son. We sort of say like, okay, we're going to send you for a class to see whether you like it or not. We did give him a choice like, oh, do you want to go for swimming class or piano class or dance class, He said, okay, can. I want to go for fun class. I don't want to go for study class. I think in that sense, we give him a little bit of autonomy to decide what he wants to do. But I think ultimately as parents, we need to decide what is needed.
Is that the same for Jakes? Do you actually discuss with your daughters?
I'm actually quite a traditional father. So if I feel that there's a need, actually, they may not have much option. So like I want them to go for swimming class, right? I just told them, you need to swim. You can only choose what day you want to swim. I try to accommodate to your day. You have to do this homework. You can only choose whether you want English or maths, but you still have to do homework.
But actually, right, Amelia's one is similar. So she already decided that her son needs to go for enrichment. It's just which kind of enrichment that he prefers. As parents, we already have in our mind, right, thinking that this is good for our child, and hence there's no qualms about it. You go for it.
I think partly it's a very cultural thing of how we are being brought up, or even in the society that we are living in. For three of us, I think asking your child go downstairs buy something, I don't think all of us will like just let go and don't worry about anything.
Yes, you're right. So Amelia's son is 6, right? Then Jakes, you have an older and a younger. Can you recall, right, when they were younger compared to now, what drives your spending on them? Has it changed according to their age, or it stays the same? Like for example, you mentioned that you want to make sure that your child benefits from how much I spend. I get value out of it. Compared to when he was young and now that he's 6 years old, has this changed or it remains your principle?
I think the essentials still remain, like Jakes mentioned, like milk powder, right? I don't scream on milk powder. If I can afford, then of course I'll try to give him the ones that I think are better lah. Last time I used to give him like those organic food lah. So now he's older, we can switch to more normal everyday food lah. Don't need to be everything or organic kind of thing, I think spending wise, we spend less, I feel, because last time the baby, you need to be very cautious about everything, right? So now older already, he doesn't need to be bubble wrap anymore lah.
So that means that you actually spend less?
I feel less.
I don't really calculate whether I spend more or less because my expenses are all on the entire household basis. But in general, whether to spend more or less as they grow, right? I feel, again, it depends. I think there's one factor that we probably miss out or we all didn't speak about is the joy or the fun, meaning to say like, sometimes we really spend without the need, but just for them to be happy. My wife brought my kids to Time Zone and spent $300 over there. So in general, in terms of essential basis, right, need-based wise, as they grow, definitely it will goes down a little. But right now, my elder one just go outside, eat normal food. It really costs lesser already. So naturally, I think it will get lesser. So I don't really control. Like I think what Amelia mentioned just now, we are privileged today to have a lot of options like what organic food are and all these. Like my girls drink goat's milk and all those. But I'm brought up by my grandma, so I always think back that my grandma used to feed me like porridge, cai xing, those salted fish. And my grandma like allowed me to play in the mud, go downstairs, tell me what if I swallow ant, I can learn how to climb tree. If there are ants in the drink, I'll just drink it, thinking that I become Spider-Man or something. I feel a lot of things change on how we brought up. Literally, they don't care. They only make sure that I'm healthy and I eat and I go to school and I come home. Otherwise, the rest of the thing, they also don't really care. Yeah, but then today, I think as options start to get more and more, we may be more educated and we start to have all these. So my grandma plays a very big part bring up. So I always think back, why last time can like that, now cannot. So probably I will then think twice, regardless of whether is it food, interest or education, whatever. Yeah. So that's why I mentioned I'm quite traditional kind of.
Actually, Jake's brought out a very good point. The way we raise our children, right, like compared to our generation, compared to our parents' generation and our grandparents' generations is very, very, very different. We are driven by different motivation, how much to spend. To what extent do we want to, handhold our children? What we think is good for them? It changes from generation to generation. But I don't know whether this remains. There's a saying that, we are more willing to spend on our children than we are on ourselves. Do you agree with that?
Yes. I think to a certain extent, yes. It's easier to justify to spend on your child, than to spend on yourself because, it's like, okay lah, we adult already, we can just take it. Don't buy this, it's okay. We just use that one to buy for the child. But I mean, ultimately, we still need to know that whatever we do, right, the child will follow. So, I mean, we need to take care of ourselves, then we can take care of others. Yeah, whenever I actually caught in that situation, right, like to forego something, I will think whether or not it's necessary or is there a balance I can come to, not to like forego something that I really need for myself. I think that there needs to be some balance.
Okay, on average, do you spend a lot more on your child than yourself? I mean, excluding household expenses lah.
I think one very easy example is if I see a nice dress that I like, right? Oh, I want to buy lah. But then after that, I will keep considering whether I have similar one. But if I see a nice shirt or a nice outfit that my boy likes, like he likes Paw Patrol, right? So I see, wow, this Paw Patrol shirt very nice, or this pajamas very nice, right? I will like think very fast one. I'll just, okay lah, very nice. I think just treat him with some new pajamas. The decision making process is become like much shorter.
Oh, 1 second.
I will just buy it. Not 1 second lah. But I mean, if the price is okay, and then think, okay lah, he's growing, he needs a bigger size, then I will just get it. I won't be like, does he really need it? Does he still can wear? Like as compared to what I will do for myself.
Okay, so the decision factors that is considered is different for yourself versus for your child.
Yeah, the considerations are lesser.
Okay. What about Jakes then? Do you spend more on your children compared to spending on yourself?
I think naturally all parents will spend more on the kids. Basically, like what Amelia mentioned, it boils down to probably the decision-making process on how long it is and what takes you to make that decision to spend that or not. But if we don't really spend more on our children, I think something very wrong there. For me, actually, I don't spend a lot on myself. Most of my expenditure, or even a good 70 to 80%, are all on my kids. I have 2 girls, so when I go out and eat with them, because my younger one, I think, 6 years old only, so she's at a stage that she eat adult food, but she cannot finish the adult food. So I will ask her what she want to eat, and usually I will eat her leftover. So naturally, I won't buy a meal for myself. I will see what she wants to eat and eat her leftover. And if I'm not enough, then I just steal a little from my elder one. You see, all this natural stuff becomes spending more on kids than ourselves. Yeah, so naturally, definitely will spend more on them. That's why I really emphasize on the point like whether we can afford or we cannot afford. Because I think really the discussion, or even most of us today, really have the privilege to have an option to spend more on our children.
When it comes to spending on children, right, there's only a fixed amount of pie or resources that we have every year or every month or every day. So if we use, let's say, 60-70% on our children, then we're left with 30-40%. And if we are the sandwich generation, then we have to allocate some for our parents as well. Then that leaves very little for ourselves and our retirement planning. So how do you actually plan your financials around your kids' expenses, and especially if we are the sandwich generation? Like, for example, I understand, Amelia, your parents are still around, you need to take care of them. Jakes as well. Last time you mentioned that you have to pay back your dad, for raising you up. Do you mind sharing how do you plan your financials around your kids' expenses?
I think for me, right, thankfully my mom is still working, so she's quite self-sufficient. I think the important thing is to plan like insurance-wise. Like if anything should happen to me, then both the parents and the kid and my family will be taken care of lah. Then I make sure I have adequate coverage for myself. So in case anything happens to me, everybody has some form of coverage.
Okay. Jakes?
So in terms of spending wise, definitely we are all in the sandwich generation, and for me, I'm the only child, so I also think and worry quite a fair bit on this area because I scared in future when I need to support my children and then I need to support my dad, then that may be a concern. So maybe in my line of job as well, so we do some forecasting, and in the foreseeable future, that's why putting myself into the picture when I foresee in probably 5 years time how will be my expenditure will be like. So this will then bring me back to the current moment on how I plan my finances, because down the line, if there are certain things that need to be spent on, and if I'm concerned about that, then I will actually think about that. Now, I'm a person that will be quite far-sighted, so I will think like 5 years what I need to spend on. And there's one factor that I will base on, which is what are the things that are fixed and things that I don't have an option on, which are education and parents' retirement when they lose their ability to work. So these are things that we don't have an option. Now for me to buy a house, buy a car, everything, like we all mentioned, we have an option. We can decide how much to spend on renovation, how much to spend on a car, what type of country to go for a holiday. To answer how I plan my finances right now, I'm really basing on factors down the road on what are the things that are there. So I will think a fair bit on this area because I'm usually one that constantly worrying a little on what will happen next. So like their education or my dad's retirement. Maybe I'm this way because I'm the only child. So a lot of things will be affected by my actions.
It's all on your shoulders.
If in the past my dad have like 7 to 8 siblings, then they may not be so worried about the children because one don't do well, another one may not do well, one don't do well. I mean, these are all among our grandparents' generation. Maybe 6 children, 4 don't do really well, 2 super well, then okay, solve the issue. But right now, in today, we start to consider the number of kids we want to have. Like maybe Amelia children, she only have 1 kid. So I don't know whether she have intention of having another one, but maybe the kid will think like me next time. Because all the load will be on that one child already. And every decision the child make or I make will affect others like my children, my dad, my wife, my entire family. This also plays a part on how we plan. So, I mean, there's no specific answer. It really comes back to how your situation is and whether you think it's important to give it a thought. I have seen people living day by day, they are super happy, no wrong. So it really comes back to individual views on how we look at things in order to decide and plan how you then work out around your financial.
So right, it boils down to what you mentioned, our background, what our values are, what our beliefs, how we want to plan around your expenses on your child and to make sure that there's enough for your parents, there's enough for yourself. Okay, but for Amelia, you mentioned you just want to make sure there's sufficient coverage on you so that if anything happens to you, then you know for sure that your family is well taken care of. So that's one of the ways of doing it. So for Jakes, he will be forward looking. You will plan 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what do you need to spend on, and fast forward to that and then rewind it back. There's 100 ways of doing it. There's no right or wrong. For myself, I'm a little bit combination of Amelia and Jake. I don't fast forward 10 years. I just look 3 years down the road. What are the necessary expenses and inflation that by, let's say, 3 to 5%. So that's the amount that I will need. Then I will also make sure there are sufficient coverage on myself and my husband. If anything happened to one of us, my daughter is well taken care of. My family as parents as well. Yeah, there's no right or wrong on that. So come back to the very last point that we want to cover. We talked about spending money on our children. It's actually a form of investment on them. Do you expect any returns on this investment? Do you mind sharing? And in what form? Tangible or non-tangible?
I think as parents, we would want the best for the kid, for the child to grow up happy and do the best that they can be. But for me, I don't expect any form of so-called return on investment because that's not why we have children, right? For me, it's just so that he becomes a happy person in future. I think that will be the best kickback for us as parents. To be a happy person who can fulfill his purpose or whatever he wants to do in future.
Yes?
So whether anything in return, I mean, subconsciously, we cannot measure that in specific terms such as monetary terms, time-wise, or anything like this. But we will still expect something in return, in a sense like I put how much effort into your education and how much result that you must have or you need to achieve. But I believe all of us here will also want our kids when grow up to come back and visit us, to accompany us. Expectation wise, I may have some, but I don't impose it on them. Example, schoolwork, I cannot have zero expectation in schoolwork. But monetary wise, of course, you don't have to worry about how I earn money and you don't have to save on your food in order to help me save money. But being filial, being respectful, taking care of parents. I just visited my in-laws yesterday. So I told them this, when you grow up, whether me or your mom or any elderly, you need to visit them one. I'll tell them you need to visit. It's not a choice. You need to visit them one. It's not an option to you. You just need to visit them. This is just how human beings are.
Okay, so currently we have 2 very interesting viewers. So Amelia is a bit liberal type one, okay, not so traditional one. Jakes is the more towards traditional parenting style where, filial piety is not a choice. And the expectation is I invest in you and I expect that you remember me when I am old. Amelia is, all towards the child. As long as he's doing okay, he's happy, he fulfills his purpose, then I'm okay. There's no right or wrong. Different school of thoughts, that's all. I myself is like, if I plan my retirement properly, right, then I do not need to depend financially on my child. So I actually more towards Amelia. As long as you're happy, you like what you do, you fulfill your purpose, okay, already, you don't need to take care of me. So different school of thoughts. I'm so happy that, we are able to share our different opinions in terms of, how much we spend on our children today. And it's actually, again, to conclude, is the things that we spend on our children, whether it's value for money, what our beliefs are, what our backgrounds are, how we are brought up. Again, thank you very much, Amelia and Jakes, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And hope to speak to you all soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to us this week. Got a question or topic you'd like us to talk about on our podcast? We'd like to hear it from you. Yes, you. If you enjoyed our show and would like to stay up to date on what we do, follow us at Aegis Organization on Facebook and Instagram. In the meanwhile, cheers! The statements or opinions expressed on this site are ours and do not reflect the official policy or position of AIA Singapore Private Limited, any other agency, organization, employer, or company.